Our guest is the Colonel, Colonel Gordon Cucullu. He's the author of 3 books, Separated at Birth, How North Korea Became the Evil Twin, Inside Gitmo, the true story behind the myths of Guantanamo Bay, and Warrior Police, which he wrote with his wife, America's Military Police in the World's Troubled Spots. He is the president of the Valhalla Projects, which serves post 9/11 vets. He is a former Green Beret who served in Vietnam, and he has been a friend, one of the longest friends of one of the show's longest friends. I don't know how to say it. He's just been with us for a long time, and it's been an honor, and he is with us right now to answer some questions regarding Bo Bergdahl, the release for 5 Gitmo detainees, high-value Gitmo detainees. Colonel, welcome back.
Hey, great to be back, Crane. I guess, aside from AFR and your previous incarnations, I'd say we've probably been together close to a decade now.
It has been a decade, and wow, it is a blessing. My wife and I talk about that often because, not only because of your friendship, sir, but just quite frankly, your breadth of experience and your concern for the veterans. So we've addressed the VA scandal, and that hasn't gone away, obviously. And now, with the Bo Bergdahl release, we are addressing that and what it means. You are a historian. You have put things into context, and oftentimes at the end of the interview, I'll ask a question and say, I'm sorry you apologize for not being more optimistic, but you're telling it like it is, and what you're doing is you're giving us the truth, which we can respond to, and that could hopefully change the hearts and minds of some who have this information and say, hey, wait a second. Now I know what the truth is. Now I will make decisions on who I want leading in our government, not about R's or D's, but about accountability, that will impact the world in a way that will make it safer for us and provide more in the way of national security and at least take care of those who have taken care of us. It's ridiculous, quite frankly. The entitlement state that we have, is 60% plus of the budget, 18 to 22% military, and then we go to the veterans and we have the scandal that we have, and it's ongoing. Let's get to John Kerry, Secretary of State John Kerry, and his statement regarding the release of the 5 Gitmo detainees. I've waited to play this for you. I played it yesterday during the first segment. I want to play it again to get your response of his questioning about the deal. Roll it.
What I know today is what the President of the United States knows, that it would have been offensive and incomprehensible to consciously leave an American behind, no matter what, to leave an American behind in the hands of people who would torture him, cut off his head, do any number of things, and we would consciously choose to do that. That's the other side of this equation. I don't think anybody would think that is the appropriate thing to do. And you know, it seems to me we have an ability, we know we have the ability, to be able to deal with people who want to threaten Americans or threaten the United States. And if that's what they go back on their word to do, or if the Qataris don't enforce what they've done, we have any number of avenues available to us to be able to deal with that.
Now, one of the members of the Taliban, these detainees from Guantanamo, has already vowed to return to Afghanistan, return to the fight, and kill Americans. And the head of the Haqqani network who was holding him said, look, we have a pretty good idea here now. Let's kidnap more Americans. I mean, what do you say to the families of American soldiers that perhaps these guys could go back and kill Americans again?
Well, first of all, propaganda is propaganda, and they'll say whatever they want to stir the waters. So people should not be lured in by their propaganda, number one. Number two, we are ending our combat role. Our combat role in Afghanistan is over. We're going to have very few, people in that kind of position on occasion where, but I honestly, I just think that's a lot of baloney, to be truthful with you. And to whatever degree it may be true, they will wind up putting themselves at the mercy of those people who are very effective, who are there, who will deal with those matters.
I've never served a day in uniform. I know that Secretary Kerry has obviously you have, but I didn't understand that on a common sense point of view. Colonel, help me out here.
I wish I could. That's the most convoluted thing I've ever heard. I mean, talk about propaganda. Well, most of it was coming out of Kerry. This isn't propaganda we're hearing from these former Taliban leaders, and well, now back in the saddle again. We, in effect, released the first team, the leadership of the Taliban, back to the fight. The Qataris aren't going to keep them there. They've already said that. That was just window dressing, and I think it's interesting that Secretary Kerry used the word propaganda, because I believe, Crane, that that's what we've been on the receiving end from this administration for some time. And for him to, on the one side, say, well, we're not going to have anybody in combat, then on the other side say, well, if these guys return to the fight, we're going to have our guys shoot them. I can't explain that to you, because I can't explain it to myself. It doesn't make any sense. If we don't have guys in combat, then who's going to be doing the shooting? I think as far as the listeners go, if you want to see what's going to happen in Afghanistan after we pull out, you don't have to wait. All you have to do is look and see what's going on in Iraq right now. Mosul fell yesterday. Fallujah fell in January. The bottom is coming out of Iraq, a war that we had won under President Bush with the surge, which President Obama voted against. That was in the bag. That was a done deal. And then this administration refused to negotiate a status of forces agreement, which would have kept Americans in place to help with security in the same way that we've done it in Germany and Japan and in Korea after the war. It would have added stability to Iraq and given them time to make the advances necessary for their own security. That's all come unraveled, and the faster this goes, the faster it's going to come unraveled. I mean, look for the whole thing to come apart here within the next few months. When the bottom goes out, it doesn't go out slowly. It goes out, with a big whoosh, just like it did in Southeast Asia. And that's a precursor for what's going to happen in Afghanistan. Right now, I have zero confidence that the Afghan government, super corrupt, totally inept, is going to be able to preserve itself for any length of time against the Taliban and these tribal leaders like the Haqqani network. And with these 5 guys back in it, I mean, this is like letting the senior leadership that organized, financed, and fielded the Taliban in the first place go back and do it again. And if anyone, including the Secretary of State, thinks that they're not going to do that, then the baloney, as he referred to it, is simply sitting right on his desk, and that's what he's trying to feed to us. And I personally don't accept that.
If wars are won and lost and not merely ended, is ended another word to end a war? Could we say that President Obama is surrendering? Is that too much of a draw out? Am I going too
not
far
at all.
with
He
that?
surrendered to the Taliban. He's already done it. It's just pro forma right now. I really have trouble understanding the motivation of the soldiers that are still in the fight, other than the fact that, I was late in the war in Vietnam. I stayed, up until late 72, and we could see the threads coming loose even then, but we were, hoping against hope, and we were trying to fight for each other at that time. And I'm pretty sure that's the same mindset that a lot of these soldiers, particularly in the special operations units, have right now. They're simply fighting for the guy on either side of them, and hoping to pull a miracle out of the bag. But it's just it isn't going to happen, Crane. And it just pains me to say this, but we gave up a war we had won, which was Iraq. And whether you wanted to go in there or not, we had it won. That That is inarguable. And the war we hadn't won, the one that President Obama labeled, quote, the good war, he simply gave up on after he surged a modicum of troops over there. And, you know, all these casualty figures we used to read daily during the Bush administration, I noticed that none of the big players in the media have bothered to mention the fact that we've had more casualties since President Obama took office than we had in the entire time that President Bush was in office.
And I don't recall reading the names of them as we did with President Bush, under President Bush, for the Iraq War.
Or seeing the pictures or any of that, you know.
Yes.
And again, that falls under the propaganda rubric. It was designed to undermine the faith and confidence in the American people, and went a long way toward doing that.
You mentioned the surge in Afghanistan, and it's always troubled me, and we've played the clips and we've talked about it. But in deciding troop levels strategically, it was 10,000 under the lowest request that was reported. And I just don't understand that if you needed more time to make advances, you needed to loosen the rules of engagement. Again, as you know, I have great respect for those who have served incredibly. I've never served, but strategically thinking, it doesn't take a Rip Einstein to figure out, loosen the rules of engagement, allow us to win the war. Why didn't we do that with the surge? Why didn't we give enough troops? Why didn't we give enough time? What's strategically, if you're sitting there with the president, if you were tasked with that, Colonel, would you move forward with the questions that I've raised? And maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, disabuse me of the notion, if I'm going off here, that this was driven by, it's conjecture, but I have no other reason to think, if you're not making decisions based on what the generals are telling you and the requests, then there's politics. And that's what I've seen. Politics trumping national security. And more importantly, politics trumping the lives of our soldiers.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened. And that's what makes this so super tragic, is that I don't know, you know, where we could have gone in Afghanistan, frankly. I think the idea of trying to build a nation where there never has been a nation was an era that the Bush administration fell into. And I think that, you know, the possibility in Iraq was there. The Iraqis did have a sense of nationalism, a sense of national unity that would have trumped the regionalism and the religious factions had it been given a chance to succeed. Mm-hmm. But when we tied the hands of our military, and then we went ahead and did it again in Afghanistan, where we came in with no real mission, it was a very ephemeral mission in the sense of, well, you know, let's make a nation here. And then to restrict the troops in the way that they've done has been just horrendous. I guess it's really hard for me to express in words the absolute disgust I feel for the politicians who will willingly sacrifice American soldiers on the battlefield simply because it scores political points for them and wins re-elections or ingratiates them with certain, fringe support groups or whatever. But it's just at the point, frankly, where, I wonder at some point if the military just isn't going to go to the field anymore. And this latest episode with Bergdahl, with the the torturous logic that we heard, we're hearing from not only from the Secretary of State, but for the spokesman in the State Department, from the administration, trying to work this thing into some sort of heroic mission to support the troops, continues to backfire because, as you say constantly, American people can handle the truth, and the truth is coming out. And so what are they doing? They're attacking the left is attacking the very people who did the sacrifice, who were on the ground, who took the casualties, who took the hits.
20 seconds. Yeah. Yeah, and they're attacking those, Colonel. And Colonel, we'll have to continue this conversation our usual time on Friday at 25 after the hour. A lot of follow-ups.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we're up against a hard break here.
Yeah.
Crane, I understand that.
And no disrespect intended. I'd talk to you for the rest of the show. Thank you for being with us. We look forward to talking with you then. The Valhalla Project, and I will get that up on the Facebook. And we just have to say, hey, if we care about the troops, then our actions and the policy would reflect that. What are you all seeing? It's a problem, folks, big time. Colonel Gordon Cucullu, Valhalla Project. He is the president of that organization, fine organization. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, AFR Talk.